Hey, Hilary, welcome to the His and Her Money Show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. What a great topic.
Absolutely. We are super excited to have you on the show because you're going to help us navigate a tough topic that many people listening to the show right now could really use some help and some wisdom and some guidance on. But before we get into your advice, can you just take a moment and introduce yourself to our audience and let them know what you're all about?
Yeah, I sure can. I am I'm a certified financial planner, and my practice is based in San Jose, California. I work almost exclusively with women. That said, most women are married or want to be married. So about 35% of my clients are men. I call them um, evolved men. Many years ago, I was working as a certified financial planner during the day and found that I was going home at night to a stack of bills that I wouldn't open because I couldn't pay them. I was a chronic overspender, and things really came to a head. I realized at one point during the financial crisis that I had drained my retirement accounts trying to pay my mortgage bill. And once those accounts got to a balance of zero, there was nothing more left, right? I was, again, a chronic overspender. And I was sitting alone in the middle of my living room floor. And I said to myself, if I don't change this, like if I don't figure this thing out, I'm going to be homeless. And so I became an expert on behavioral finance. I mean, I look around me and I think I'm smart. I have a degree in economics. I'm a certified financial planner. Like, what is going on here? I intend to produce good results, but I'm producing really bad results, like the opposite of what I want. My friends are making money. They're making about the same as I am, and they're saving money. And that's not the situation that I'm in. So I became an expert on money psychology, and I did discover kind of the linchpin of all of it. I turned my situation around, paid off all the debt, refilled the retirement accounts, built a thriving business, and now I share this story openly. So my practice is about both having a world-class investment experience and also understanding your relationship to money. And so that's kind of what I'm all about. That's why I founded Profit Boss Radio, my podcast, and I just really enjoy speaking and teaching about what's possible when you master your relationship with money.
Now, if you could, I mean, I know it's going to be tough to, but what do you think, if you could narrow it down to one or maybe two big keys, how do you go from being chronic overspender to debt-free wealth builder?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really just one key, and that is the thing that changed everything for me, is understanding that we're all encoded with a particular superstition about money, and I call that your money operating system. And what I realized is that when I was young, my mom was a really great saver. She had an average income. She worked in a hospital, but she saved really responsibly. And what that felt like to me was there was never enough money. She would only give me $5 to buy birthday gifts for my friends, right? And like that didn't seem like enough for me. I had to wear generic high top shoes. I was like the captain of the high school basketball team, and we had to shop at Payless Shoe Source, and I didn't like that, right? So I created a money script or a money operating system called "There's Never Enough Money." And interestingly, your brain will manifest whatever you already believe to be true, right? Like, our brains are really powerful machines. And so if you believe there's never enough money, what happens when money comes into your ecosystem? And this explains, by the way, what happens to so many people, lottery winners, professional athletes who come into these windfalls of money. And we all tell these stories about how they go broke, right? Mike Tyson is a perfect example. Um, and what happens is money comes into your ecosystem, and the brain kind of goes, does not compute, right? Because I believe there's never enough money. I have to get engaged in the process of getting that money out of my ecosystem. And that explains chronic overspending. Now, sometimes it goes hand in hand with things like, for example, you might find yourself spending to compensate for lack of personal relationships or rapport or friendships with people. So not having social support, you take yourself out to dinner because you tell yourself, I'm treating myself nice, because spending is actually replacing some basic human need like social interaction. So my money operating system is very common. There's never enough money, very, very common money operating system. There's also there's always enough money. There's also, if I'm good, the universe will give me what I need. There's money is complicated. There's money is private. There's, money doesn't grow on trees. These really elementary scripts that we make up as children. And what it took for me to transform my finances was coming to grips with that was my belief, that was my framework, and that until I changed that belief, nothing else was going to get into my reality. And so I got real rigorous about how I managed my cash. I had been very much engaged in hiding the process of going broke. So I was doing a lot of pretending in the world, and I just got really honest. Like, this is what's happening. I'm no longer interested in preserving my FICO score because I couldn't afford my house. I had one of those loans that goes up every month. Do you remember those? They're called negative amortization loans. And it was, I couldn't afford it anymore. My condo had gone from $400,000 in value to $200,000 in value. It was insanity. It was financial insanity, right? And I was doing a lot of hiding and pretending, and I just got real. Like, no longer am I interested in pretending, keeping an 800 credit score. What I'm interested in is turning this around. I'm going to do whatever it takes. So it was that.
I know that there are a lot of people listening right now who they want to do whatever it takes, at least, intellectually. So they know that they're in a bad financial place. And for a lot of people tuned in, the fact that they're in this bad financial place is causing a lot of fighting and friction in their marriages. And this is not uncommon. If you're married, chances are, if you're not currently dealing with it, you may have dealt with it in the past. But it seems, though, that communicating about money in marriage is super tough. Why do you think that is?
Well, think about it. If someone with a money operating system, money is the root of all evil, gets together with there's always enough money, that those two do not go together, right? And so just because you're compatible as a couple doesn't at all correlate to you being compatible financially. And especially if you're unaware that you're being driven by a money script, and that script is fundamentally a superstition, right? Like, there's nothing that's true about money. Money is a blank slate. We made it up. It's like made up in language, paper represents money, but that's not even money. Money doesn't actually exist. And so when you can dial it back and really kind of get to the root of it, I think understanding and partnership is possible.
Now, I think that what you're saying is 1000% accurate, right? But I don't know if everybody gets it, if everybody feels it or sees it the way that you and I see it. So let's dive a little bit deeper, because people have goals, people have dreams, people have aspirations, and they want to do better with their finances, but they don't necessarily see the correlation between those goals and this root issue of communicating with your spouse effectively about personal finance. So how important is it for couples to learn how to communicate effectively about their money with each other?
Well, it's critical. I mean, money is business, okay? It's not emotional, it's not personal. Money is just business. And you know that if you had a business partnership with someone you couldn't communicate with, it would be easy to say, well, that partnership is not going to work out. Now, from a romance perspective or a love perspective, your marriage might be just fine. But in the money area, if that partnership lacks communication, lacks agreement, lacks a set of basic tenets that you work from, you're going to have trouble. I mean, just like any building, you're not going to build a building before you build the foundation. I mean, that would be crazy. This is the foundation of how you get along and communicate about money.
And you've coached a ton of people. You're a certified financial planner. So you've had these talks with plenty of spouses. What seems to be the common areas from a personal finance standpoint that most couples seem to be at odds about?
It's almost always some version of spending, or someone has a financial commitment, like one spouse has a financial commitment the other one doesn't have. So maybe kids from a previous marriage, or taking care of a family member, someone, I'm related to and you're not related to except by marriage. And it can be really hard to come together on those issues.
And I guess as a result of this, I know that you have created a 3-step plan to stop fighting about money. And so I know that people are tuned in like, yeah, she's describing my situation. That's what I'm going through. What do I do? So let's start with step 1 of the 3-step plan. What's that?
Okay, great. So step 1 is um, plan a conversation, plan a money date. Okay. And you want to agree to a time period when it's going to be quiet, free of distractions. You're not, I don't recommend, a lot of people will say, have a glass of wine. I don't recommend alcohol in business. Personally, I kind of lose interest, but, maybe light a candle, but make sure everything's copacetic, and sit down at the table together and tell your money stories. So really figure out where you are in terms of what are you bringing to the table. What was your experience with money as a kid? Were you punished for it? Was it a source of suffering? Did you watch your parents fight about it? What are the gender-based expectations that you have? A lot of women think that money isn't their thing. A lot of men think that they're naturally better at money and math than women are. That, by the way, is not borne out by the evidence. And I encourage you, I'll send you a tool that you can make available on your website if you like. Figure out what your money operating system is. What is that script that you're bringing to the table? And then here's the real key, is be really vulnerable with your partner. This takes trust, and say, I'm happy with my financial results, or I'm not happy with my financial results. Because what I find is a lot of people come together, they butt heads, and they think, partner A and partner B. Partner A says we should do it this way. Partner B says we should do it a different way. But if neither of them are happy with their financial results, why do you want to keep making the same mistakes, right? As human beings, we want to be right. But if you are not producing the results that you want, you have to be willing to pivot. And that's where I really feel like if you come out of this conversation as a couple and both of you have admitted, yeah, looking at the numbers, to be honest with you, that's not what I want. I want more. I want more freedom. I want more savings, or I want to know that we're saving for the future and for kids' college tuition, or I want more spending money today, right? Like there's usually it's some version of not enough. And then as humble people who know how the world works, you can then look at the world with new eyes. Okay, great. So now we both have admitted our plan, our results are not what we want them to be, and we can actually look for new ways and new strategies and new tactics to get there. And now, instead of being like this, focused on arguing with each other, you're headed in the same direction with a common goal in mind. And now you're students of the world, you're students of the stock market, you're students of money, instead of fighting and criticizing each other and really damaging the relationship, right? And so you can figure it out together.
Yeah, I think a couple of key words came out of there was goals. I think that's super important, because you can get out there, and I think the tricky part is to not get on this dream date and just talk about what's wrong and just look to the past and say, this is what happened, this is what happened. Because sometimes, because money is so tough and it's so emotional, and it seems that sometimes it can go in the wrong direction. But I love how you're telling everybody that's listening to go out there and tell, like you said, your story. Like, it's good to look back and see kind of the root of how your mentality was shaped and your behavior was shaped towards money. But now let's take that information and let's craft a new plan to get to these new goals, because if we keep doing what we've been doing, we're going to keep getting what we've been getting.
Yeah, it would really behoove you. You would be much happier, not you, but the ubiquitous you would be much happier with your results if you were found a way to step back emotionally. So I agree with you that money is very emotional for a lot of people. And And I invite you to be more analytical about it, because you're just going to enjoy your experience a lot more. It just is what it is. Whatever you've produced is whatever you've produced, like the debt, the savings, the spending, whatever it is, it just is. And if you can take the meaning off of it, then you're more powerful to impact it.
Absolutely. Now, step two, I love, because this is something that really helped Ty and I become debt free and overcome our financial obstacles. Step two for you is to learn and improve your financial wisdom together. Talk us through that.
Yeah. So now that you've come together, you've been vulnerable, you've said to each other, okay, we're on a path together. Take on listening to a financial podcast, take on reading a book together. It's important. You got to know your net worth, so you can throw all the bills and the statements on the table together and calculate, well, how much debt are we actually in, or how much are we saving every month, right? But come at it together without blame, without you shouldn't have done this and blah, 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 blah. That you just have to leave the past behind, right? And find mentors. So find someone who did it before you. It's common in a relationship for one person to take the position, and I am guilty of this myself, for someone to take the position, well, I know how to do this, like we should do it my way. But if you're not producing the results you want, what makes you think you know how to do it? Because I have no proof, right? Let's find someone who's 1 to 2 steps above us. Don't go to a multimillionaire first thing, right? Find someone who's paid off debt, or who learned a particular budgeting methodology or automated their finances, and ask them to teach you how to do that. Create your wealth mastermind together and get accustomed to getting in a regular, productive conversation about money.
No, awesome advice. Step three is challenging, right? On the surface, it sounds great, but then when you try to walk it out, it can be a little bit difficult. So step three is this: forgive your partner, forgive yourself, and move forward. So how do we take that from a thought to a reality?
So here's the thing is, you're not going to get anywhere without a map. You need that vision, right? You need a treasure map to get where you're going. And for many people, when they first come to the table, if money is a mess in their relationship, they can't even create a vision, right? We're too far away from that. All I can see is the bill that's due next week, and I don't got the cash to pay for it. And so the first 2 steps hopefully have gotten you out of that place. So now we have to agree. And I think, honestly, forgiveness has been implicit in steps 1 and 2, right? Like, I'm assuming a level of functional partnership, and obviously forgiveness is critical inside a relationship. So, and that in any relationship, there has to be a, what's the word I'm looking for? If you keep bringing something up time and time again, the relationship is going to break down. You're never going to get past it. So at some point, you have to let the past be the past. Statute of limitations is the phrase I was looking for. There has to be a statute of limitations, right? Can't carry that baggage with you forever. And you might have to articulate it. Okay, you know what? You made that mistake. I've kind of whipped you with it enough. I'm going to set it to the side. I'm just going to let it go. And now you have the space to create a vision. What do we want for our lives, right? What do we want? A 5-bedroom house? Where do we want to retire? Do we want to be able to pay for college? Like, create that vision, because only then, with a peaceful heart, can you create that inspired vision that you are willing to set your path toward. And maybe you don't know how to get there, but that's the amazing thing, is that millions of people have gotten there before you. I mean, there are millions of millionaires, right? And you have a lifetime to learn their secrets and to change your actions, which will then change your results. And I will tell you from my experience, you've heard of this term, the snowball effect. And the snowball effect, I think, is typically applied to debt. So, you pay it off and pay it off and pay it off, and then all of a sudden everything's paid off. It works the same way in reverse. So for me, the first couple years were really like maybe 18 to 24 months were felt like work. Okay. But then the account balances started to go up. My business started to grow. And now, I mean, it just feels like the whole thing has mushroomed. And I used to have the experience every time I logged into my bank account, there would be about 10% less money than I thought that there was going to be. A lot of times those numbers were red, and that would usually leave me without oxygen a little bit. And now whenever I log into my accounts, there's about 10% more than I thought there was going to be. And it's a beautiful transformation. It doesn't happen overnight, but the experience is like work, 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 poof. It shifts dramatically, and that's possible for all of you listening as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, talk to that spouse who is totally fired up to get their finances in order, but they're married to someone who is not as fired up and possibly not fired up at all. And it's kind of they're bumping up against the fact that they don't have a partner who is trying to fix their finances at the same capacity or rate that they are. How do they navigate that? That's tough.
Yes, that's tough. So a couple things. So a lot of times people will see the change in you and see you leading the pack and be inspired by that. So once the bills start to get paid on time or the debt starts to get paid off and they start to feel how that feels, they could join in with you, right? I mean, I've heard of that happening a lot. People tell me, Hilary, I had to be on my own for 6 months before he got on board with me, and now everybody's doing fine. The truth is, you can make a big impact on your own. So if you double your income or cut your spending in half, you can actually dramatically impact the marital finances by yourself, marital or couple finances by yourself. Third, I don't know if this is what you thought I was going to say, but it is okay sometimes if you're really just not going to work it out with this person financially. You don't have to feel like that's not it's not an okay reason to say maybe we're not the right partners for each other. And it doesn't make you shallow. It doesn't make you a gold digger. It just makes you someone committed to particular results in your life. And, you can't do anything without money. Money gives you choice and freedom. You might not agree with the system, but it is the system we use. And, you're going to need to pay for a lot of things in life. The government isn't going to fix it for us. So, and retirement's going to be expensive. We're going to live long lives thanks to doctors and medical science and nutritional science, and we got to pay for those lives. So I'm just really committed that everyone get what they want out of life.
Absolutely. Now, one of the steps in your plan to stop the money fights is to improve on wisdom. So what are some book recommendations that you can give to couples out there to strengthen their financial literacy to help them with that step?
Sure. One came to mind actually when you were asking me that last question, and it is called The 7 Stages of Money Maturity. It's by a man named George Kinder, and this was a seminal book in the industry of financial planning. He founded the Kinder Institute, and kind of everything this book made a big splash in the planning industry when it was published, and it walks through literally the stages that people go through as they mature financially. And what you'll find is that if you're in a lot of discord with your partner, probably they're in one of the lower stages and you're just moving faster than them. And so that's going to give you a lot of insight into especially what might be causing discord with partners. Second, I would get Barbara Stanny's book called Overcoming Under-Earning. And she writes for women, but everything, everything in the book really is for both genders, and she talks about the psychology of people who, I mean, truly, we're all talented, skilled, trained, educated, and yet I'm sure you know people in your friends group or colleagues group who seem to chronically under earn. And why is that? And I think that obviously we need to be focused on keeping our incomes up. So that book is going to help. Third, I would get a book by Manisha Thakor called On My Own 2 Feet. And this book is more of a reference book. It's very tactical. It's very how to improve your credit, or how to consider a mortgage, or things you should know about investing, like how to get started investing. And it's very detailed. So it's a different kind of book than the other two that I recommended, but a great reference book for you to have around.
Awesome. Those sound incredible. And we'll have links to all the books that Hilary is recommending, as well as her guide to her money operating systems, in the show notes of this episode. You can just head over to hisandhermoney.com and find Hilary's episode, and the links will be there. Now, in closing, Hilary, there might be somebody tuned into the show right now who heard your advice, wrote down notes on your 3-step action plan, but they've just been arguing for so long about money with their spouse, and they're just a tad bit skeptical if this is going to work, if they can really stop the money fights. What words of encouragement can you offer to that person right now?
I will say, no matter what is going on in your financial life right now, no matter what your financial experience is, no matter what results you've produced, it's all come from your money programming. It's all coming from that money operating system that has dictated everything about your financial life. That in essence, you've been a computer just running a program over and over and over again with money. And if you can actually edit that program, you're going to be shocked about opportunities that avail themselves to you that you couldn't see before, resources that are at your disposal, mistakes you'll see that you've made that you won't make again. That this money operating system technology is powerful if you let it do its work. And I mean, as with anything, your results in life are a function of of what effort you're willing to put in. So if you bring your intentionality to the technology, I'm confident that you'll produce results.
Great advice, Hilary. So tell everybody more about your site and your resources that you have available and how they can connect with you.
Absolutely. So after you've listened to this amazing podcast, if you have room in your podcast lineup, just come right over in your podcast app and check me out at Profit Boss Radio. I do 3 kinds of episodes. I do solo episodes where I teach what I know as a certified financial planner. Another kind of episode, I interview experts. And finally, I have a kind of episode where I interview actual people about their own money stories, financial abuse, financial turnaround, financial, overspenders, or even people who rocketed to success seemingly right out of the gate, right? And what I want is for you to be able to hear those stories. So this is your wealth mastermind. And, we've had great growth in listenership, and there's even a private online community for you to join for free. So I'd love it if you, like I said, if you have room in your podcast lineup, just give us a listen.
Awesome. Hilary, we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to share your wealth of knowledge with everybody tuned in to the show. So thank you very much for making this happen.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.